describes the content that we're going to go into today, the application level behind. Again, what we're doing today is we're taking, remember I said early on that we were going to go through 7 frameworks. We took care of 5 of those yesterday. So today we just have a couple of other frameworks. We've got some more maps that we'll go through. But basically what we're doing today is using all of this information that we went through yesterday. Okay, and we're going to begin to implement things. Before we do that, let's just open it up and talk about your homework. How did that go? Somebody go ahead and take the floor. Assume there is a talking stick or a talking ball and it was just thrown at you. Let's go ahead and just go through this. How did yesterday's homework go? The invitations. Somebody share an experience of what happened.
Well, so Courtney and I talked. Courtney was my homework, which was kind of fun. So I mean, it was an open door, you know, to the conversation, and it started a conversation, which was good. Talking about, you know, not just looking inward, but looking outward, you know, having all of the program staff look outward instead of inward, you know. How are we going to help them do that?
Yeah. Good. All right. So you went into this with a little bit of an anticipation as to what that outside triangle might have in it. And you were thinking of ways that you could be more helpful. You were thinking of ways that you might have been a little bit of a burden, or you could have made things better rather than worse, or whatever else. And that led into this conversation expanding on some of the programmatic elements. What was your experience with that?
It was good. I mean, we were open about it and came up with some ideas that I'm going to implement soon.
Right.
So, I went well.
All right. Do you feel like there was information and understanding exchange, so it's going to be a little bit easier perhaps to carry out some of the things that you've got to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because she's there to support me and help me figure out how I'm going to do it.
Okay, wonderful. You just said something. Did those words actually come out? I'm here to support you, and I understand, or was it just kind of, is that how it came across?
She said, if you want to go to Disneyland with them, go.
I did. We got it in the budget. Don't worry. All the money.
Immediately, it will turn like a Kim. All right, that's great.
But no, she did come out and say, I'm here to support you and help you, you know,
Good,
whatever
good.
you need.
You know, these are simple things. But these are the, you know, too often when we think of the machinery of an organization, we think of literally the machine. We forget that the grease on that machinery is what actually keeps things functioning and moving. And because it's not as concrete and solid and steel like the gears of the machinery, we sometimes don't think about it so much. And yet this outward mindset and the behaviors that leads to, that's really the grease that makes everything function better, and function at a higher level than possible otherwise. Okay, that's great. Thank you for that experience. Who else?
Well, I'll tell you mine.
Okay.
I had 2 of them. One was Kim. I invited her to lunch. No, because I wrote on the invitation, Courtney and Kim out to lunch, in parentheses, you were not my vehicle. Because I don't want her to feel like the only time I come to her is when I need money for something in the agency.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to dig deeper. She's a person. I care about her. And so we're going to have lunch over it. I'm going to learn more about her. And then there was another staff in the agency who I did the same thing with, that isn't in this room, and I set up a lunch with them, and I'm going to dig a little bit deeper and get into that person.
That's great. Courtney, way to go. What was your feeling on that? Kim is not a vehicle. You are not a vehicle.
You are not a vehicle to me.
That says volumes, though. That says, how do we typically think of, within any organization, how do we typically think of the finance department? 1 or 2 ways, usually.
Yeah.
Right?
And we talked about it a lot yesterday. Everything, you know, when we had to talk about Kim, we're like, well, she can give us money, or I don't know her feel that way. I know we all
Or she can say no to getting you money. So it's the obstacle, right? Yeah. What do you think that must be like to be on the other side of that, where you're constantly probably surrounded by people that see you as a vehicle or an obstacle.
Kim, just to let you know, I didn't feel that way.
I appreciate you.
Gosh, that's a cool experience though. So you're taking the time to really think, all right, what must it look like through her eyes? How much she see my interaction with her? If it does seem, and again, that's what we do typically, right? I mean, other people, to some extent, if they don't fit within our inside triangle, if what they do doesn't necessarily affect our inside triangle, we're usually not even aware of it. But if their outside triangle has an element that affects our inside triangle, then we'll know just enough about them to engage, to see them as a vehicle, and to hope that things go better, or to see them as an obstacle. But finance definitely has an impact on most departments because of the control element there. And so it's up to us to decide whether or not we're seeing finance, finance, as a vehicle or as an obstacle, and realize that there's a potential for growth within that relationship and more possible collaboration. You might even find yourself in a bit of a strategic relationship with him and helping you understand some of these elements that can help things go better. Typically, we don't think of finance that way, and there's great potential that way. Let's see, let's keep going. Who else?
Well, I'll have to admit that I didn't do mine because my person wasn't in the building. Now I'm just thinking of things that I can do. So I actually was thinking, well, should I just do an email? But I didn't feel like that was the appropriate thing to do. I don't know. So, but now I'm just thinking I'd like the lunch idea. And I think just to open that up so you can actually have those conversations with them. I didn't get home till late last night, so.
Yeah, boy's given a pass. Her brain was fried from the job she had to perform with you.
And I had a staff meeting last night.
And the staff.
But I did know, I was thinking about it when I left, like, oh, what should I do? And how should I open up that communication? And I feel that needs to be opened up. So I think I might do the lunch thing.
Yeah, well, it's whatever fits for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever feels normal and natural. Too oftentimes we can force ourselves into situations where it's so unnatural for us that by the time we get into that situation, the whole thing feels unnatural, and then we have to work through that barrier that seems strange. Just whatever works for you. You know, email communication just to set it up. Obviously, not to communicate what you're thinking, because that never works. We all know that, right? That's great. So you've just taken the initiative, and okay, good. Who else?
My homework has left the building for the time.
Okay. Fair enough. So what's your plan?
Well, I'm thinking about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'll formulate a plan, right? All right. We'll talk about it a little bit more later today. Who else? Yes.
I kind of cheated on my homework.
Great. We don't want to hear I kind of cheated from the finance department.
Because Joanne's my homework. Since she already scheduled a meeting for next Tuesday, next Monday.
Oh, this would be good.
Good.
Should we change the lunch before, like breakfast before, maybe? I'm really liking that
During,
idea.
after.
You just have a halftime and switch roles. You know, one thing that we have to remember here is there seems to still be, we feel like there's this stigma of considering somebody our object and trying to go and get those outside triangles. We still feel like we're saying something bad about ourselves or them. All we're doing is we're discovering the potential for an increased relationship and therefore increased potential collaboration, strategic operations, and all these other things that are wonderful. And I think we have to get past that because I still hear the tone, which I completely understand, by the way. So-and-so's my homework, so-and-so. It's as if we feel like we're saying, I've been a horrible coworker and I've just never taken the time to see you as a person. We're not necessarily saying that. We're just saying that, you know what, despite the fact that we get along and we get things done, I really don't know a lot about that person's outside triangles. This is a great opportunity to increase that level of collaboration. And when you begin to imagine in your mind all of these new webs springing up throughout an organization, you see, it's that sum total is the power. That's when the sum of the parts is greater than just those individual things all added together. Okay, so that's kind of the point. So don't, I know there's this element of shame, it seems like, when we say, well, yeah, and that person's my homework, and I can do better. Of course you can do better. You're always going to be able to do better. Don't take that as a negative thing. See that as an opportunity to continue to grow and increase that relationship. Okay. All right. One more. Anybody else have anything to report?
Well, I'll talk. I
didn't have time to do my professional homework. But I kind of used the techniques at home last night in my personal life. Obviously, I know my husband really well. But you know, sometimes when you get home, you know, busy life, we have a toddler, you know, we don't communicate always really well, and there's certain things that we have to get done. So I had like some tasks that, you know, needed to be done after work, and he got home. And I took a minute to really step back and kind of try to find out what his training goals were for that day. You know, what had been going on at work and his professional life. And he's getting ready for a big business trip, and there's some things going on. And so we, you know, took some time to talk about that, and it kind of gave me a different perspective of why he came home tired and didn't want to help me with all the chores at home and things like that. So trying to kind of, again, understand more about what's going on where.
I love that, Sarah. That's great. You know, sometimes we can fall in the trap of thinking the reason we're going for these outside triangles is to learn more about them so we can be nicer to them. Well, that tends to be an outgrowth. But really what's happening is we're trying to see things as they really are. We're trying to get a true perspective on reality. And any judgment and any feelings toward an individual, when we don't really fully understand those outside triangles, is self-deception. It's distorted. It's not real. And so all we're trying to do is get to where that interaction between us is real. It's true. And it's done knowing those outside triangles, because then our interaction is full. And we think back to that situation that I had with the individual at the banquet, where I suddenly had this awareness of this outside triangle element that I didn't before. Some could argue, well, yeah, that just made you feel softer toward her, and so you were nicer and kinder. Or you, I think more accurately, you could say, no, what it did is it gave me a full picture of who she was, so that I could finally really interact with the real person and see them as a real person. Everything else up to that point was a distortion. It was fake. It wasn't the full reality of the situation. So in a situation like that, taking the time, powerful experience, right?
You understand the whole picture better, you know, about what's going on.
Absolutely. And then naturally, when you begin to learn more about those outside triangles, something begins to naturally occur inside, which is a desire to be helpful. I mean, again, it sounds like we're going back and on mom's knee at 5 years old, and be good, be nice, be helpful. But it's interesting that those are the secrets to organization success and efficiency. Because at the end of the day, what if you see others as people? With everything that entails, now that we've gone through it, that is that secret. That is the breakthrough result time. Right? That's the invitation for an organization to go to a whole other level. All right, how about any other experiences of seeing people as people? Sarah led us perfectly to that. Any thoughts go through your mind as you left, as you went home, as you were thinking about any of those things?
I'll make a general comment. And we were talking about this just a little bit ago. We really enjoyed the exercise that we did, where we had to get together with a group of 3 and have the 15 minutes to really talk about, you know, each other and our professions and our job descriptions and things, because I think it really opened my eyes to realize that, you know, I just know bits and pieces about what someone does or what's on their plate, or, you know, professional, personal, all of that. And so, you know, Gwen and I were talking, and she was saying that she did a little bit of that with her team.
Staff last night.
Oh.
So I just really enjoyed it. So I was like, I'm doing a mini version of it. We did it.
It was a really enlightening exercise.
Yeah. Good. There's always a lot of energy around that. It's one of those wonderful things where I think, for example, you know, everybody's got their rhythms and their things. And I think of, for example, I have a church that I go to, and I think of all those individuals. I've known a lot of these individuals 6, 7 years. But if you were to ask me, do I really know what's going on in their lives, and I know that, you know, challenges, struggles, and the things that, I don't know what I do. And yet I'd see them, and I consider myself, we're friends, we've known each other forever, but how narrow that relationship. And can I truly see somebody as an individual if I don't really understand the pressures, the demands, and within a work environment, back to Michelle's question earlier, doesn't mean I'm going to probe into all that stuff, but I certainly want to know the pressures, the demands, and the expectations that are on them as it pertains to this job and this organization, because that will entirely change the way that I see them and work with them. Right. Gwen, you didn't even report on that. So
I remember who was all in the room when I said it. So I did, yeah, no, I did that last night. So we just did groups of 2, and I did 5 minutes each, because we just didn't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
But we usually do like opening, some little team activity. And usually it's about all the great things that we saw somebody else do in the last couple of weeks or something. But now, so instead of doing that, I paired them up with teachers that they don't work with. They're not part of their team. and just kind of opened it up to dig deeper into asking them questions. I gave them some prompts of what to ask, and we just started our staff meeting that way. So, and they were all engaged in conversation, so it looked like it went pretty well. I haven't really heard anything from them, but.
Good, good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Sounds like a good experience. You know, if you remember, all we're really doing, if you go back to that very first video with Louise, very beginning with breaking on his systems. By the way, does that feel like that was about a week ago? It does, isn't it? It's funny how that works. Everything stretches out. I remember way back then. It was yesterday morning. If you remember that one of the things that he did, just remember the power of this exercise of understanding a person's outside triangles. That was the difference between a large organization not being able to make some cuts and suddenly being able to make all the cuts and then some without losing a single individual. It was that simple task, that simple exercise of understanding the outside triangles of others in that organization that they weren't currently aware of. That's the power of that. It's the power. That's where collaboration and innovation comes from. So once something like that begins to be institutionalized within an organization, you begin to create those connectors throughout the entire organization. You begin to feel and operate as a single cohesive unit. Everybody's known. Those demands are known. And then you go back to Carla DeVoe and you remember seeing how quickly things could start moving once those connections had been made and people had that level of trust with one another. So, you know, we don't have to get too lost into just the pure process of it, which is fun and exciting. But the result of that is powerful, transformative, really. Okay? All right, well, that's good. I hope we'll hear a little bit more about maybe some of the other things as we move along. But we're going to dive in. So today, in developing an outward mindset, we covered already these 5 frameworks yesterday. We worked on the map. Today, we're going to learn 2 more frameworks. We're going to build a few more maps. But first, what I want to do, I'm just going to bring all these up. These are 4 of the frameworks that we learned yesterday. Okay? All right, now we're page 74 and 75. And somebody raise your hand if this does not look like your 74 and 75.
70 and 71.
All right, so 70, 71, same thing? All right, so those 2. So whenever we do this occasionally, we'll just recalibrate. So apparently some of you have the different handbooks. All right. We don't want to spend a lot of time here, but we just want to quickly go over it. So as I just point or mention the framework, just kind of shout out what it is that we're learning from that framework and what that framework is about, okay? So we've gone through all of these. We dived into several of these. Let's start with number 1. What is it that we're learning with number 1?
Inward and outward mindset.
Yeah, 2 different ways to do things, right? Inward versus an outward mindset. What else is on there? That's the main part, here and here. What else do we notice here? If I have an outward mindset, what does it mean?
Let's see people as people and not objects.
Yeah, so that means that if I see them as people, then these are important to me also, right? Those outside triangles matter. Whereas down here, I don't. I see them as an object, therefore I don't really care about what's behind them. If I see them as a vehicle, I might recognize one element that might be in an outside triangle, but that's only because, if you remember that arrow that draws back, only because I see them as somebody to help me with mine. That's the sole purpose of me learning their outside triangle, is to know what they can do for me. Okay, so a little bit of symbol there. All right, excellent. One other thing, it's just a minor thing here, we already went over this, but it's also to recognize that mindset and behavior are 2 different things. I can form any behavior with an inward or an outward mindset. You have to kind of show that distinction, because otherwise we can fall into this trap of thinking certain behaviors are outside mindset, certain behaviors are inward mindset. It's just not the case. Anything can be done with an inward or an outward mindset. Okay? Anything can be done with an inward or outward mindset. All right. Framework 2. Somebody just kind of talk through that. What did we learn in framework 2? What's that all about?
Whether or not we want to honor the choice that we are going towards for that person, or betray it.
Yeah, so what happens when we honor the choice?
And the outward mindset, and we're thinking about that person and what that person's needs and values are. Or what
Yeah, we continue to be in that outward mindset. Now think about it this way for a second. If I felt that sensation, that sense, to do something for them that would be helpful, treat them like a person, that's an indication that I'm already in an outward mindset toward them, which is a good thing. Because if I were in an inward mindset already, if I were in the box towards somebody, would I have some of those sensations come to me, some of those thoughts come to me, treating that person like a person? Probably not. If I'm already in the box, I'm not seeing them as a person. Therefore, I won't be sensitive to some of the ways that I can be helpful to that individual. So it's to be taken as a positive sign too if I'm feeling that sense to do something kind. But what happens if I betray it?